Welcome to this legislative update video from the Medical Society of Delaware. I'm Dr. Nick Biasato, former president and now chair of the Legislative Policy Committee for the Medical Society of Delaware. Today I want to speak about the first year of the 147th legislative session, which ended in the early morning hours of July 1st and will reconvene in January to close out session and roll into election season. In conjunction with our legislative e-update, which is emailed to our members, this video is to keep you updated on issues that have been addressed, remain to be addressed, and may be upcoming as we prepare for the second year of the 147th session. House Bill 88. After the tragedies in Newtown and Sandy Hook, Governor Markell, Lieutenant Governor Dehn, and Attorney General Beau Biden announced a package of bills to help reduce and prevent gun violence. One of the bills proposed by the Attorney General was a law that would allow law enforcement to keep guns out of the hands of the mentally ill who are deemed dangerous to self and others by the mental health profession. This bill was drafted in close consultation with the Medical Society and the Psychiatric Society of Delaware to ensure that doctors were not thrust into the role of law enforcement and that the current reporting immunity in the Tarasoff standard was kept intact. Furthermore, it was important that no further stigma was placed upon the mentally ill and no hindrances to care were erected. The resulting bill was passed unanimously by the House of Representatives after some amendments, but subsequently failed in the Senate. This bill may return in January in the second term of the current session. House Bill 131. This was introduced by Representative Walker and updated our alternative reproductive technology section of the code to give guidelines for surrogacy. The Medical Society, in conjunction with the Delaware chapter of the American Congress of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, supported this bill, which was signed into law on July 3rd by Governor Markell. House Bill 141. This was introduced by Representative Quinn Johnson and had to do with the practice of chiropractics, the purview of the Board of Chiropractics, and the conceptual relationship chiropractors can have with physicians. The original bill that was drafted would have prevented chiropractors from entering into employment relationships with physicians. After opposition by the Medical Society and discussion among the chiropractors, the bill was amended to alleviate this concern, and contractual relationships between physicians and chiropractors are still allowed. The bill passed both House and Senate. House Bill 175. This was introduced by Representative Byron Short and was a major piece of legislation regarding workmen's compensation, which came out of the work led by Lieutenant Governor Matt Dehn, former insurance commissioner of the state of Delaware. The scope of this bill is quite broad, but the impact on practices was minimized with input from several MSD members who served on the working group and should lead to a stabilization of rates after a dramatic proposed increase. I want to personally thank Dr. Rudin for the great work on this issue. House Bill 194. This bill was introduced by Representative Barbieri and addresses the practices of lay midwives after some tragic cases in Delaware. It received some press attention after there was concern that the scope of the bill also included nurse midwives and licensed midwives, which is not the case. Instead, this bill targets midwives with no licensing or medical training and allows DHSS to levy a larger fine for their midwifery as illegal practice of medicine and potentially bring a felony F charge. This bill passed the House and Senate, and ongoing talks are scheduled with DHSS and lay midwives to try and find additional ways to help prevent emergency cases from childbirth. Senate Bill 116. This was sponsored by Senators Townsend and Cloutier, and it made steps forward in recognizing drug addiction as a health policy concern and not a criminal matter. It granted criminal immunity to victims and reporters of overdoses and resulting injury. The Medical Society of Delaware not only joined a broad coalition of healthcare supporters, but also testified on the Senate floor in support of this legislation. It was signed into law by the governor at the signing ceremony earlier this month, at which MSD was invited and attended. Prescription drug abuse Also presented in this session were bills raised from the findings of the PDAC Committee, the Governor's Prescription Drug Action Committee, which was co-chaired by the Medical Society's immediate past president, Dr. Randeep Kalan, and the Division of Public Health Director, Dr. Carol Rattay. Both Dr. Kalan and Dr. Rattay have put countless number of hours in on this bill to get things right, and we believe we did. PDAC is an ongoing group, and their recommendations can be found in several bills. Senate Bill 59, for example, makes some changes to the Prescription Monitoring Program, or the PMP, and along with technical changes to the Act, closes the 72-hour dispenser reporting loophole. It awaits the Governor's signature. Senate Bill 119 caps dispensing to 72 hours by prescriber dispensers and creates safe drug disposals from hospice programs. It was signed into law on July the 3rd. And in regulation, there will be 2 CME attestation requirements for your controlled substance registration or re-registration to ensure best practices by prescribers. This is down from the proposed 4 hours after vigorous debate and opposition from the Medical Society. The regulatory findings can be found in the House Bill 154, which will be revisited next year. Thank you for listening. I encourage you to visit the Medical Society's website, where you can find a governmental affairs section with an archive of e-updates, letters of support from the Medical Society, and a bill chart that with all the legislation affecting health policy and your practice. As Medical Society Chair of the Legislative Committee, I look forward to hearing from you, any questions you may have, comments or concerns about Delaware legislation and regulatory matters that affect you and your patients. Thank you for listening.